Hi, welcome to our channel where we share the most intriguing stories. I never thought a letter could ruin my day before I even opened it, but this one, it kicked off a war. A fake HOA map, a spy neighbor, forged documents, and a fight for the right to fly my flag. They came for my land. They forgot one thing: I own the damn deed. I never thought a letter in the mail could piss me off before I even opened it, but this one had that kind of energy. The envelope was crisp white, too clean, too official, like something a bureaucrat would smile at while ruining your life. The return address read Maple Ridge Community Association. That was my first red flag. My land wasn't in Maple Ridge. Never had been. I live on 3 acres of semi-wooded property just outside the northern edge of that development. Bought it 5 years ago. Outright. No mortgage. I did the due diligence myself. Surveyed, read the plat maps, talked to the city planner. I made damn sure I wasn't part of any HOA, because the whole idea of having a committee of passive-aggressive busybodies deciding what color I can paint my front door made me want to punch drywall. But the letter was addressed to me, John Reeves. Correct lot number, and inside was a neatly typed notice with some of the most pompous legalese I'd ever read. According to Section 3, Clause D of the Community Code of Compliance, I was in violation of HOA aesthetic standards for having an unapproved paint color on my house, non-compliant earth tone, they called it, and an unauthorized flagpole, displaying political symbolism on the front porch. That symbolism was a large, proudly mounted American flag, by the way. They also demanded I remove or deconstruct non-permitted auxiliary structures, which I assumed meant the old tool shed I'd been restoring for the past few months. They gave me 30 days to comply or face a $200 a day fine to be enforced by civil action if necessary. I laughed. Like, genuinely laughed, standing there in my kitchen in a grease-stained t-shirt with the notice dangling from my fingers. This had to be a mistake. I tossed the letter on the table, poured myself a stiff glass of iced tea with a splash of bourbon, and decided to forget it. A misfire, wrong address, bureaucratic constipation, that sort of thing. 3 days later, it stopped being funny. It was a Saturday morning. I was outside in the side yard sanding down an old oak workbench I'd rescued from a barn auction when I heard someone call out, "Excuse me, sir." I looked up and saw a woman standing on the gravel shoulder just beyond my gate. Late 50s maybe, bleach blonde bob that defied gravity, pressed khaki slacks, clipboard in one hand, tablet in the other. She looked like she sold overpriced hand lotion at a country club gift shop. And she was already halfway onto my property. "Can I help you?" I called, keeping my tone neutral. "Yes, I'm Karen Bradford, president of the Maple Ridge Community Association," she said, marching straight up the path without waiting for an invitation. "I need to discuss the recent non-compliance notice you received." I didn't offer to shake her hand. "You're trespassing." She blinked, genuinely taken aback. "This is all within Maple Ridge's enforcement zone," she said firmly, like I was a senile grandfather who'd wandered off his porch. "No, it's not," I said. "My land isn't in your HOA. It's not in any HOA. Never has been." Karen tapped something on her tablet. "That's where you're mistaken. Our Unified Community Beautification Map, ratified in 2012, includes this parcel as part of the association's jurisdictional overlay. Any properties within that overlay are subject to association covenants and enforcement protocols." Now I was pissed. First off, you and your made-up overlays can kiss my red, white, and blue ass. Second, I've got the original survey and deed in a fireproof safe inside, dated, stamped, with zero mention of any HOA involvement. She gave me this tight-lipped smile that was 90% condescension and 10% Botox. "I'd advise you to review the 2012 plan. It's public record. And in the meantime, please begin addressing the noted violations. We'll be conducting a compliance review at the end of the month." "Please get off my land," I said. She didn't move at first, just looked around like she was mentally calculating how many code violations she could invent on the spot. Then she muttered, "Stubborn ones always start this way," turned and walked back toward her car. A powder blue Lexus with HOA vanity plates because, of course. I stood there for a moment, breathing through my nose. Then I walked inside, unlocked my filing cabinet, and pulled out every document I had: deed, survey, title insurance report, plat maps. I even found the email thread with the city zoning officer confirming my lot as an unencumbered private parcel. I scanned every single page into a folder titled HOA Nonsense, just in case I had to send it to someone who mattered. Karen hadn't come here to warn me. She came to plant a flag, and I had the feeling she wasn't done yet. For about a week after Karen's uninvited appearance, things went oddly quiet. No more letters, no clipboard visits, no pastel Lexuses crawling past my fence, just birds, sawdust, and the sound of cicadas. I figured maybe I'd scared her off with all that kiss my red, white, and blue ass energy. Maybe she was bluffing, trying to flex HOA muscle where she didn't have jurisdiction. That was the optimist in me, the part of me that still believed in common sense. Then the neighborly outreach began. It started with a knock on the door. Tuesday morning. I opened it to find a guy around my age, maybe a little younger, late 30s, ball cap, Carhartt jacket, and a six-pack of craft beer in hand. "Hey man," he said, grinning like we were old buddies. "Name's Brian. I just moved into the ranch style on the east side. Thought I'd come introduce myself." I wasn't used to friendly newcomers. Most folks in this part of town barely wave, which suited me fine. But Brian had that laid-back charm you couldn't manufacture, or so I thought at the time. We talked on the porch for a while. He complimented the restored shed, asked about the bee boxes, and offered to help lift a heavy old grinder I'd been meaning to move into the shop. We cracked open a couple of those beers, and before long I found myself thinking, finally, a normal damn neighbor. Over the next few days, Brian kept stopping by, always at convenient times, just as I was about to move lumber, just as the chainsaw needed a second set of hands. He offered me old pressure-treated planks he had left over from another project, and even brought a box of antique hinges that looked like something straight out of my shed's original build date. It would have felt generous if it wasn't so damn convenient. The weirdest part, he never asked much about me, never talked about work, but he asked a hell of a lot about my property lines. "So where does your lot end? That row of cedars? Or past the slope? You get your water from municipal or well? Wonder how deep it runs. You got blueprints for the main house somewhere. Just curious how this was laid out." By Friday, something itched at the back of my skull. I'd spent years in the Marines. I know when someone's fishing. I decided to give him bait. That evening, I printed out a fake site plan for the property. Looked legit enough to fool someone who didn't know how easement records worked. On the map, I drew in a gray zone along the eastern edge, marked it as pending agricultural use, not registered. I left it half sticking out of a manila folder on my porch table, while Brian and I drank beers under the string lights. I caught him glancing at it. I went inside under the pretense of grabbing a flashlight and watched through the kitchen blinds as he picked it up and took a picture with his phone. Just one photo. Fast. Efficient. He left soon after with a wave and a "Thanks again, man. Let's grill this weekend." The next morning, an envelope showed up in my mailbox from the HOA. Inside was a fresh violation notice. Apparently, I was now in breach for unauthorized agricultural use in a zoning restricted zone, complete with a highlighted aerial diagram showing the exact same phantom area I'd planted in that fake site plan. Verbatim. I nearly laughed myself into a hernia. There it was. Proof that Brian, Mr. Friendly Handyman, was feeding intel to Karen. But I didn't just want to catch him. I wanted a confession. So I set up a trail camera. High def, motion triggered, discreetly tucked inside a knothole in the fence post. I aimed it toward my porch and table, then placed a second fake document, a supposed zoning complaint rebuttal, addressed to a fictitious city employee named Walter Griggs. This time, Brian didn't even wait until I left. He stopped by mid-morning, said he was walking his dog, and helped himself to coffee while I fetched a tool in the shed. Trail cam caught him snapping 2 photos and folding the paper into his back pocket before leaving early, citing a sore ankle. I sent the footage to my attorney, Jennifer, along with a short message. The mole has a name. By Sunday, Brian's visits stopped entirely. No calls, no texts, no beer. I drove by his supposed house on the east side, and you know what? The place was still empty, unfurnished, blinds closed, no tire tracks. He was never a resident. I asked a friend at the utility company to quietly check. Turns out the power was turned on 2 weeks ago by a property management company. No one had filed a permanent occupancy request. Brian wasn't a neighbor. He was a plant, probably paid. Maybe even family to someone on the HOA board. And I was now dealing with an enemy that didn't just believe in neighborhood rules. They believed in covert ops. so I decided to give them a reason to regret it. I installed 3 more cameras. I backed up every letter, every timestamp, every violation notice. I created a dedicated cloud drive with redundant copies and locked it behind military-grade encryption. I started logging every HOA attempt to contact me, calls, visits, even flyers posted on my fence. And I built a new sign, big, bold letters, private property under surveillance. Trespassers will be filmed and reported. Underneath, in smaller font, just for flavor, your HOA map is bullshit. Let them chew on that for a while. It's funny how fast paranoia becomes preparation once you're proven right. After the Brian incident, I kept my cameras rolling, my inbox clean, and my lawyer on speed dial. I wasn't just dealing with nosy neighbors and passive-aggressive flyers anymore. This had turned into something else, something calculated, organized. Jennifer, my attorney, was a bulldog with a law degree. She'd spent 10 years dealing with nightmare HOA boards in 3 states. When I sent her the footage of Brian stealing documents, she didn't ask questions. She just called back and said, "Let's go to war." First thing she did was draft a cease and desist letter, 24 pages long, attached with time-stamped evidence of unauthorized surveillance, false notices, and invasion of privacy. Certified mail delivered with a neat red bow. I thought it might slow them down. Nope. A few days later, a white envelope appeared in my mailbox. It had no return address, but the HOA's sticky fingerprints were all over it. Inside was a printed screenshot of my house taken from a drone. The note read, "You are in ongoing non-compliance. Failure to cooperate will result in city involvement." City involvement? That got my attention. That same afternoon, a white sedan with municipal tags pulled into my gravel drive. A man in a yellow vest stepped out with a clipboard and a badge that read, "Code Enforcement Officer." I met him halfway down the driveway, arms crossed. "You got a reason for being on private property?" I asked. He looked mildly annoyed, like he'd rather be doing anything else. "We received a formal complaint from the Maple Ridge HOA regarding zoning violations, specifically unauthorized outbuildings, flag placement, and unregistered land use changes." "Bullshit," I said. "This isn't Maple Ridge. This is unincorporated private land, verified and surveyed." He sighed, like he'd heard this before. "You got the paperwork?" "I got enough to wallpaper the inside of your car." I brought him inside, dumped the entire HOA nonsense folder on the kitchen table, and gave him a coffee. 45 minutes later, he stood up, shook my hand, and said, "Far as I can tell, they're overstepping." "I'll file this as resolved," but the kicker came as he was leaving. "You know," he said, "this isn't the first complaint they've filed like this. Something about that board president, Karen. She's made herself real popular over at City Hall." That evening, Jennifer called. Her voice had that razor-edge calm that always meant something serious was coming. She showed the unified plan, she said. "Excuse me?" "Karen, she presented a document at the last HOA board meeting. It was streamed on a private YouTube channel. I had a proxy sitting in. She's calling it the Unified Community Beautification Map. Claims it was ratified in 2012 and includes your property as an annexed buffer zone." My blood ran cold. Is that even a thing? Not legally. But she's acting like it is. Claims the city approved it. Claims your lot was reclassified. She even pulled up a graphic showing your house as part of Block A. It's all fabricated. I was already walking toward my filing cabinet. I have the original plats from the zoning office. Digitally stamped, sealed. Not a damn thing was changed in 2012. "I know," Jennifer said, "but she's shopping that fake map around like gospel. And people are starting to believe her." That's when I lost it. I filmed a video. Simple, raw, 2 minutes long. Me standing in front of my fence, holding the original city-issued plat map with the seal visible. I explained who I was, showed my deed, and laid out the facts in plain English. Then I added the kicker. She forged documents. She tried to annex my home into her HOA. She planted a spy. And now she's lying to city officials. I posted it on YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, even Nextdoor, where the HOA drones lived and breathed. Within 24 hours, it hit 20,000 views. The comments exploded. People from my own county chimed in. "She did this to us too." Same Karen tried to find my parents for wind chimes. They went after our doghouse. A local news outlet emailed me asking for an interview. I declined. I wasn't ready for TV. But I sent them the documents. The next day, the headline read, HOA president accused of expanding jurisdiction through forged plan. That's when it got real. Jennifer forwarded me a legal response from the HOA board. It was a masterpiece of passive-aggressive denial. They claimed Karen had merely interpreted prior plans and acted in good faith to promote community harmony. No denial, no apology. Just lawyer speak for we're not technically admitting fraud. Jennifer was already drafting a formal complaint to the County Ethics Review Panel and the district attorney. We weren't just playing defense anymore. Then came the best part. An email from a man named Thomas Clay, former Maple Ridge board member. Subject line, I have something you'll want to see. Thomas Clay met me in the back corner of a diner 2 towns over. Middle-aged guy with a tired face and a limp handshake. The kind of man who looked like he aged 5 years for everyone he spent on a committee. He brought a folder, not digital, not scanned, old school paper. These, he said, sliding them across the table, are from the board meetings in late 2012. The ones where Karen supposedly passed that unified beautification map. I flipped through them. Agendas, minutes, memos. Nothing mentioned annexation, nothing referenced new jurisdiction, and there sure as hell wasn't anything remotely official about expanding the HOA's reach. But what really nailed it was a side note in one of the margins. Voted down. Rejected. Proposal to extend coverage zone. Karen, 1 to 5. She tried this before, he said, sipping his coffee. Board didn't go for it, so she shelved it and waited until the older members moved out or gave up. Then she quietly resurrected it with a fresh coat of bullshit. I took the folder home, scanned every page, and uploaded it to my cloud drive. I had all I needed to prove fraud if it came to that. But that didn't stop her. Next week, HOA flyers started showing up in mailboxes all over Maple Ridge, and somehow a few ended up in mine. Who really owns Lot 237? One man's defiance threatens community values. Is he dangerous? You decide. They didn't mention my name, but they didn't have to. Everyone knew who they meant. Even worse, Karen launched a private Facebook group called Save Maple Ridge. It wasn't private for long. A friend of mine got in using a dummy account. The posts were unhinged. Pictures of my house, my truck, my flag. Speculation about my military past, some idiot claiming I was dishonorably discharged and prone to aggression. There was a poll. Should he be forcibly incorporated into HOA authority? 43 votes for yes, 6 against. Someone posted a blurry photo of me mowing the lawn with the caption, "Criminals like to look normal." That's when I realized this wasn't just Karen anymore. She'd weaponized the community, or at least the loudest part of it. It would have been easy to just hole up, pull the cameras closer, hunker down, and wait for the storm to blow over, but I've never been good at playing the victim. Instead, I logged into YouTube, opened a new channel, called it Free Property Zone. My first video was short and simple. How to tell if you're being harassed by an HOA you never joined. I showed documents, cited real laws, broke down the way HOA boards abuse zoning language and public ignorance. I didn't mention Karen by name, but I didn't have to. The tone said it all. The video blew up. Within 72 hours, I had 8,000 subscribers. Comments came flooding in from Georgia, Texas, Arizona, Nevada, people with similar horror stories. I started doing live streams, Q&As, even some interviews with retired land use attorneys. I became the guy you called when the HOA came knocking without a key. Then came the letters, not from the HOA this time, from people in my own county. 2 homeowners just outside Maple Ridge reached out, both with eerily similar stories. Letters demanding retroactive dues, threats about community integration, attempts to enforce bylaws on non-members. Both of them had tried to fight back quietly, and both had been smeared just like me. So we met. One of them was an older woman named Gladys, sharp as a tack, with a voice like a foghorn and a personal vendetta against petty tyranny. The other, Malcolm, was a history teacher who'd once been fined for a non-compliant mailbox. We hit it off instantly. Together, we founded the real Free Property Zone. Not just a channel, a coalition. We wrote a statement of principles, printed flyers, put up a website, laid out a step-by-step guide for any homeowner being harassed outside HOA jurisdiction. Our motto, if you didn't vote for it, you don't answer to it. The next HOA board meeting was a circus. We showed up with cameras, microphones, and a stack of notarized statements. Gladys stood up during open comments and read a passage from the state's property rights code. Malcolm brought a projector and played a clip from one of my videos. Karen tried to have us removed, but too many people were watching, including the local news. The meeting ended in chaos. No resolutions passed. 2 board members walked out. Karen looked like she wanted to chew through her own teeth. The next morning, a new violation notice was taped to my gate. Flag exceeds allowed height. Lower immediately. I smiled, took it down, and folded it in half. Then I walked inside and ordered a taller pole. The summons came on a Wednesday, slid under my front door like a bad omen. White envelope, gold stamp, courthouse seal. Official as hell. Maple Ridge HOA had filed a civil complaint against me in county court. The basis? Violation of the Unified Community Beautification Map and refusal to comply with reasonable community directives. They accused me of property misuse, defiance of jurisdictional authority, and, my personal favorite, reckless architectural dissent. I didn't know whether to laugh or burn it. Jennifer didn't laugh. "They're trying to establish precedent," she said, eyes scanning the complaint. "If they get the court to even partially agree that your lot is within their oversight, they can start forcing dues, fines, and bylaw enforcement. They want a foot in the door, legally." So we filed a countersuit. Our response laid it all out. False representation of jurisdiction, harassment, surveillance, trespassing, property devaluation, attempted fraud, defamation, and emotional distress. Jennifer was surgical in her wording. Every page bled fire. That week, I doubled down. We printed flyers, shot new videos, did a feature interview with a local land rights podcast. The free Property Zone membership surged. People weren't just watching anymore. They were showing up. Retired cops, engineers, realtors. Everyone had a story about an HOA gone rogue. Meanwhile, Karen's camp ramped up their theatrics. They staged a community petition to enforce decorum on Lot 237. Teens in HOA t-shirts went door to door with clipboards asking neighbors to sign. One of them tried to film me from across the street. When I stepped out to confront him, he bolted, dropped the phone in my ditch. I retrieved it, cracked the screen, and handed it over to the sheriff's deputy later that day. The same deputy had responded to an earlier incident when someone dumped 10 pounds of mulch across my driveway in the middle of the night. Coincidence, I'm sure. The sheriff's office did nothing. Said it was civil in nature. So I did what any self-respecting, deeply irritated landowner would do. I got louder. At the pre-trial hearing, Karen showed up in a white blazer like she was presenting at a real estate conference. Her lawyer, a pale, pinched man with the posture of a folding chair, laid out their case with the confidence of someone who believed their lies had weight. "Our client," he said, "seeks only to bring Mr. Reeves into alignment with community standards. The property in question is part of the 2012 Unified Map, clearly defining Block A as subject to Maple Ridge Authority." Jennifer stood up, calm and venomous. "We moved to strike the map entirely from the record. It's a fabricated document, retroactively constructed without municipal authority, legal ratification, or state recognition. We have original plats and sworn statements proving the contrary." The judge squinted at the papers. "Let's talk evidence." That's when we dropped it. The folder Thomas Clay gave me, the board minutes, the margin notes, and the video. Oh, the video of Karen in 2012 losing the vote to expand the HOA boundaries. Her voice, clear as a bell. "We'll try again next year." The judge ordered a full evidentiary hearing and granted us the right to subpoena HOA internal communications. Karen's face was white, but we weren't done yet. Jennifer motioned for a new witness to be added, a former Maple Ridge code officer named Shelby Lynn, who had recently resigned. We'd tracked her down through free Property Zone contacts. Shelby submitted an affidavit stating that she had personally been pressured by Karen to reinterpret boundaries creatively and that she was deeply uncomfortable with enforcement practices. The judge agreed to add her testimony. That night, I uploaded a new video titled "They Took Me to Court, Here's What Happened." It hit 100,000 views in 48 hours. Donations poured in. Someone even sent me a t-shirt that read, "Reckless Architectural Dissenter." I wore it proudly. Of course, Karen fired back. The next morning, I woke up to find a warning pinned to my porch post with a thumbtack. Next step is code enforcement. Compliance is non-optional. No envelope, no signature, just war. The warning pinned to my post might as well have said checkmate. except they played it one move too soon. By now, I'd learned something critical. People like Karen don't play by rules. They create them. And those rules work, right up until someone with a flashlight starts checking the foundation. So I stopped looking at this as a personal fight. This wasn't about a flagpole or a shed or a goddamn map. This was about power, control, and maybe, just maybe, money. That's when Malcolm called. "You ever wonder where all those HOA dues actually go?" He said. I hadn't. But he had. Malcolm, as it turns out, used to work in nonprofit financial compliance. So while I was fighting in court, he was quietly submitting public records requests, digging through IRS 990-00s, budget reports, tax filings, and HOA annual meeting minutes. The things no one ever reads. "John," he said, "this isn't just bad bookkeeping. This smells like fraud." He emailed me the breakdown. On paper, Maple Ridge HOA brought in over $320,000 a year in dues and fines, but their public budget only accounted for about $190,000. The rest? Vague entries like community enrichment, reserve planning, and board discretionary fund. That last one, Karen had personally authorized $28,000 of it over 2 years with no receipts, just initials. We forwarded the findings to Jennifer. Her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "This is federal," she said. "Not civil. Federal." Within a week, she filed formal complaints to the IRS and the SEC, including all documentation and a sworn statement from Malcolm. We also sent copies to the County Ethics Board and the State HOA Oversight Committee. The fuse was lit. Then came the audit notices. I don't know what Karen was doing the day she opened her IRS letter, but I hope it was peaceful. Because whatever calm she had left likely shattered the second she read preliminary investigation. The fallout started immediately. 2 board members, longtime sycophants of Karen, resigned by email. A third, visibly shaken, posted a statement in the HOA Facebook group. "I was not aware of any misuse of funds and will cooperate with any inquiry." Gladys printed that out and taped it to every community mailbox. Meanwhile, Free Property Zone was exploding. People wanted copies of the complaints, screenshots of budgets, tutorials on how to audit their own HOAs. We gave them everything: templates, checklists, names of state agencies. It was like watching a sleeping army wake up all at once. Then came the emergency board meeting. It wasn't announced, no flyer, no email blast, but someone on the inside tipped us off. So we showed up anyway, me, Malcolm, Gladys, and 3 dozen residents armed with folders and receipts. Karen was there, of course, in damage control mode. "We're aware of certain inquiries and will be cooperating fully," she said, smiling like someone trying to hold in a scream. "There have been mischaracterizations of discretionary use, but I assure you, no one authorized $3,000 for a board luncheon at Vinoteca," Malcolm said, holding up a receipt. "You bought gift baskets for the mayor's staff," added Gladys. "On our dime. Your reserve planning includes spa treatments in Scottsdale," someone else shouted. The room turned. Even her allies shifted in their seats. That night, the HOA website quietly went offline. The next day, a notice appeared on the main bulletin board at the clubhouse. "Board leadership restructuring in progress. No new enforcement actions until further notice." But I wasn't done. I released a new video. Follow the money. How we took down the HOA from the inside. I laid out the whole thing, step by step, receipt by receipt, with redacted names for anyone who hadn't participated directly. I ended it with a simple phrase. They wanted compliance. What they got was exposure. It hit 200,000 views in under a week. Free Property Zone gained 5,000 new members. And I started getting emails from other states asking how to file audits, who to talk to, what to say. The revolution was no longer local. As for Karen, word was she'd stepped back indefinitely from the board. Someone saw her at the courthouse with a tax attorney. Someone else said her Lexus hadn't moved in days. I didn't celebrate. Not yet. We still had court. The courthouse smelled like old paper and disinfectant, sterile, tired, and just slightly resentful of everyone in it. I sat at the defense table in a pressed shirt I hadn't worn since my sister's wedding, a tie so stiff it might have doubled as body armor. Jennifer looked like she was born to be there. Sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a voice that could carve steel. Across from us, Karen sat with her lawyer, arms crossed, lips tight, staring straight ahead, like she could manifest a different reality by refusing to blink. It was time. The judge, an older man named Judge Irwin with a no-nonsense face and a reputation for hating HOA drama, called it to order. The room was full. Residents, media, even a few courthouse regulars who'd heard this case was that HOA thing with the YouTube guy. Karen's lawyer opened. He tried to sound reasonable, claimed that the association acted in good faith, that Mr. Reeves's property falls within the interpreted overlay boundaries of the 2012 plan, and that consistent non-compliance gave the HOA the right to enforce standards for the greater community good. Judge Irwin didn't even hide his frown. "Let's see this plan, then." So they brought it up, enlarged, laminated, highlighted, the infamous Unified Community Beautification Map, with my house, Lot 237, sitting neatly in the middle of their pink-shaded Block A. Jennifer rose slowly. "Your Honor, that document is a forgery." She handed him the original plat maps, dated and sealed by the county recorder. "These are the legal maps filed with the registrar's office. They show clear boundaries. Lot 237 is outside the Maple Ridge HOA by at least 600 feet. Then came the kill shot. Jennifer submitted minutes from the 2012 board meeting. Thomas Clay's notes. The vote tally rejecting the proposed boundary expansion. And the cherry on top, the grainy but clear video recording of that meeting. Karen, younger but just as smug, getting shut down mid-speech by a former board president. "We're not expanding into private lots, Karen. It's dead." The courtroom went still. Then Jennifer called her next witness, Shelby Lynn. Shelby was calm, polite, professional. She testified under oath that Karen had pressured her to reinterpret boundary lines, use ambiguous language in letters, and find violations where there weren't any. She even recounted the moment she refused and was told by Karen, "We just need to get him to crack. Then he'll fall in line." Karen's lawyer objected. The judge overruled him. Then we brought out the final nail. Brian, or rather, evidence of Brian. The camera footage, the text messages, the property management records showing that the house he moved into or was never occupied. Jennifer read a transcript of his phone call to the HOA voicemail, sent anonymously weeks earlier, his voice unmistakable. "I got the blueprints. I'll send the photos tonight. He won't know what hit him." At that point, Karen visibly slumped. Her lawyer asked for a recess. The judge didn't grant one. Instead, Judge Irwin adjusted his glasses and said the words I'd been waiting to hear. "Plaintiff has failed to demonstrate any legal jurisdiction over the defendant's property. Furthermore, the use of falsified documents and extra-legal enforcement attempts constitute harassment and civil misconduct." Bang of the gavel. Game over. Jennifer turned to me with a small smile. "You just made case law." I didn't even process it at first. My pulse was in my ears. I heard the whispering behind me. Gladys whisper yelling, "Boom!" under her breath. Malcolm high-fived someone. A stranger in the back shouted, "Screw HOAs." The judge awarded damages, $100,000 in legal fees, emotional distress, and lost property value due to reputational harm. Karen's personal liability for fraud was referred to the district attorney for further review. As we left the courthouse, a reporter shoved a mic in my face. "Mr. Reeves, how does it feel to beat the HOA?" I looked at her. Thought of the flag on my porch. The nights I sat in silence, wondering if I was the crazy one. The cameras, the lies, the mulch. I gave the only answer that felt right. They forgot who owns the deed. A month after the verdict, I threw the biggest damn barbecue my property had ever seen. No RSVP, no dress code. Just an open gate, 5 smokers going, and a cooler so full of beer it needed its own zip code. People came from all over. Neighbors, reporters, YouTube subscribers who'd driven in from out of state. Malcolm brought his whole AP history class. Gladys showed up with 3 pies and a t-shirt that said, "Don't tread on my porch." We raised a new flag that day, taller than the last one. Not out of spite, but because I could. Because no one, certainly not Karen, not some HOA charter, was ever going to tell me where my sky ended again. Free Property Zone wasn't just an idea anymore. It had structure, volunteers, a non-profit filing. We launched a hotline for homeowners dealing with predatory HOAs. Malcolm ran the educational side, building lesson plans for civic teachers. Gladys hosted live Q&A panels with attorneys, town planners, and even a retired judge who quietly said, "Wish more people fought back like this." Meanwhile, Maple Ridge HOA was a shadow of itself. With Karen under investigation, the board went into full retreat. The Facebook group was deleted. No more flyers, no more fines. Most of the members voted to suspend all enforcement activity until further reorganization. A rumor floated that they might dissolve entirely. Karen never reached out, but I saw her once, weeks after the ruling, at the farmer's market of all places. No clipboard, no Lexus, just her and a reusable tote bag, trying not to be recognized. Our eyes met. She looked away first. The new board sent me a formal letter, this time handwritten and respectful. They asked if I'd be willing to speak at a town forum on landowner rights. No mention of annexation, no mention of Block A. I agreed, under one condition. The forum would be hosted at my place, so we set up folding chairs in the pasture, rented a portable PA, and served lemonade under the same string lights that once caught Brian photographing fake plans. The same fence where I'd hung the HOA map is bullshit sign now bore a new one, we the owners. A little girl asked me what the sign meant. I knelt down and told her, it means no one gets to tell your mom or dad what to do with their home unless they say it's okay. She nodded like she understood. Maybe she didn't, but someday she will. I never wanted to be a symbol. I wanted to be left alone, but if standing my ground helped someone else build theirs, hell, I'll take it. That night, as the crowd thinned and the fire pit cracked and popped behind me, I sat on the porch with a cold drink and no notices in the mailbox, no surveillance drones, no HOA dogs sniffing at my easement lines, just peace, and the flag overhead catching the wind like it had always belonged there.